Hi guys, thank you for tuning into my channel, Relationship Sessions with Sissy. Today we have a special guest, my good friend Miss Pamela Brown. She will kind of shed some light and kind of go over some topics and things as it regards to her life. But first, let me just give you guys a fun fact. So Pam, I'm kind of like Pam's protege, or was. In basketball, she was a year ahead of me, but she was an example for me to model. She was the point guard. She did her thing. I could never like kind of match that, but I tried. I mean, she was a good example for me, right? But then later on, we had, and then here's the fun fact. Later on, we had a basketball camp, and someone just burnt the honey bun up in the microwave. Someone burned the honey bun up in the microwave, and yeah, everyone had to evacuate the hotel, and we had to run suicides, cupcakes. So I apologize. And so I had to quit before I was kicked off. So but then nonetheless, you were still a good example, and even to this day, you have been a good example for me to kind of call on and for different things and just kind of get your insight on things. So I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me that laugh, bringing back so many memories.
Absolutely. Good times.
Yes.
All right, Miss Pam. All right, so here we go. I know you grew up as a preacher's daughter. How do you think that played a part of becoming a scientist and choosing your partner or your spouse?
Okay. So yeah, I did grow up. My dad became a minister probably when I was just going to middle school, so probably 5th grade, 6th grade. But prior to my dad, becoming a minister, I had ministers in my family. My grandfather was a minister. Pretty much all of my uncles ministers. I grew up in the church. So when my dad became a pastor, I had already began to know Jesus and know all about how church was. It was just like, second nature at that point. But being a preacher's daughter, there is a lot of, people hold you to a higher standard.
Yeah.
Yes. And, at a young age, trying to please so many people, I had to learn that I'm not doing it for other people. I'm doing what I do for God. So with my dad being the type of person that he is, he taught me that very early, which helped, being a preacher's kid coming up in this world. As far as my journey and him being a pastor, becoming a scientist, through growing up in the church, I kind of have a different outlook, or most of us who grew up in the church have a different outlook on humanity. I just care about people. I care that the people around me are doing just as good as I am, whether it's in health, whether it's emotionally, whether it's in their spirit. So I knew it was my duty as a Christian to give back. So becoming a scientist was the way I could do it, because I just enjoyed medicine. I enjoyed food. I just was intrigued by those things. And so were the people I was surrounded by. So my parents, my dad, my grandparents, those around me in the church, just having that sense of community. I was just afforded to go on to school and to continue into that field of chemistry. And then as far as my spouse, also growing up, with having my dad in the home played a huge factor in who I chose to marry. So that's kind of a big thing. And so my dad definitely set the standard high, because he was a good father. He was a good man. And then I also saw him be a good Christian and serve other people. Yes, so very, very important. And so when it comes to my husband, I saw some of those same things. Like, he has a good heart, he cares about other people, and he loves his family. And so, I definitely think it was God who put us together. But definitely he has a lot of those qualities that I knew that I needed to have in someone who would be called my husband.
So. Oh, wow. That's good. And in regards to becoming a scientist, which I think is so intriguing, did you always have a feel for like the medicine world, the chemistry, the research? Did you always have a gut feeling about that, or was that something that just kind of transpired in high school, or how did that kind of come about?
Okay, so you and I are from the same city, and so I will say that I didn't know any scientists growing up. So
Right.
yes, so the way I was introduced to science was her name is Miss Steele. She was my favorite teacher in high school, and I just felt like I connected to her. She came in the class, she talked about science, and whereas other people, may not appreciated it or understood it, like I look forward to going to her class every day. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do in science, but I have to do something in science. So I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist.
Okay.
When it was time to apply for colleges, I mean, I was an athlete. At this time, not too many people in my family had went to college, so I put all of my eggs into just like a few baskets, and that was one of the schools that had a pharmacy program.
Right.
Um, and so when I got denied from those schools, I was like, what am I going to do? But then I got accepted into Albany State University. They had a pre-pharmacy program, meaning if you come to their school, you take, 2 years worth of science classes, then you could transfer to possibly a pharmacy school. In my hopes, which
Okay.
would have been CA. But I got to Albany State University, and my mind was just blown away by the many people that looked like me that were in science, doing research, studying food. I mean, it was just mind blowing. So that's what opened my eyes, my world up to a whole nother level of science.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, so we're going to go to the second question. You have a time-consuming career, scientist, meaning that you have to research and come up with possible solutions. How do you balance being a mother and a wife?
So that's a good question. I think as I grow, I'm still learning to balance. I do not have it down pat, but what's so beautiful to me is that I do have a loving family and a supportive family. And, that's important because when I have my husband and my parents and my whole entire community of family to support me, it helped me a lot because in this field, there's a lot of research. Science changes every day. So even though I got my degree quite a few years ago, I'm still having to learn. I'm still having to take courses and, have conversations with other scientists to keep up to date on what's going on.
Right.
So that's important. So being able to do that, staying connected, it has been challenging, but I've just learned that I have to take time for myself to recharge. So that if I'm recharged and I'm refreshed, then I can give my best to my kids and to my husband.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good, Pam. Good. All right, so what are some of the biggest challenges that you face with your spouse, being that you do have a demanding career?
Okay, so my husband and I are totally opposite. I'm very much a nerd. I can if someone will listen, I will talk for hours and hours and hours about science. And so, we have to, some of the challenges were things that make us so different, was exciting or is exciting, but it's just keeping that excitement. So sometimes I step outside the box and I do things that he likes and vice versa. And it has definitely strengthened our marriage. Because it's like we're still dating, we're still learning each other because little time, I'm introducing him to the things that I enjoy about science. And then we come home and we can research things together, so it's fun. But then as far as challenging, we have 4 kids. We have 4 kids in the home, but we have 5 kids. So with 4 kids in the home, 4 small kids in the home, we're coming up on our 5th year of marriage.
Congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. So yes, in October will be 5 years, but within those 5 years, we've had kids like every year.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so we're like building our family, continuing to grow in our marriage, learning each
Mhm.
other. And every day we put on our shoes and we do it again. Like we want our marriage to work. We love each other. So it's definitely a challenge that we work on daily together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's important, just making sure that you stay connected with your spouse, to make sure you take time out to make sure you enjoy the things that both you guys like, and, maybe engage in some of his hobbies, he engages some of your hobbies, just so you can still keep that fire burning, right? So I think that's
Exactly.
very important. All right, good. So my next question, in regards to your career, do you have a mentor or a guide to help you along the way?
Yes, that's very important. I
Mm,
would not be where I am if I
mm,
didn't successfully know how to build relationships. And then I wouldn't be where I am if I wasn't teachable. Um,
mm,
Throughout my career, I have, I tell people all the time, I started off working third shift in a laboratory for Kroger. Great experience. This was in Albany, Georgia, right when I got out of school. My mentor, Miss Winifred, she was absolutely amazing. Um, I worked in a laboratory where we did quality assurance, but she went over and beyond to make sure that we were a part of research, that we wanted to get trainings. So it was more than just a job at that point. And each step I took in my career, there was someone different there that I was willing to learn
mm,
from, someone
that's
that I was
good.
willing to work with. And even going to when I worked for Coca-Cola, which was one of the best experiences I ever had, working for the headquarters at Coca-Cola. And
Nice.
yes, and my mentor at that time, her name is Yolanda Crawford. She absolutely was amazing. So I was an intern at the time, but I was able to work with all of the scientists. I pretty much prepared all of their samples for testing. And so she saw how intrigued I was about the process, of learning more about essential oils. And some of the equipment that they use, which is very high tech, I didn't get a chance to fully use them hands on in college.
Mhm.
So she actually took it upon herself. She told me that, if you stay after work an hour every day, I'll go over with you this instrumentation.
Wow.
So I learned how to do that. She did that for me. And it was just the willingness that I was willing to put in the work.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I was
Exactly.
willing to do the work. And so each step along the way, there was always another mentor. There was always someone
Mhm.
there to build a relationship with, because at the end of the day, if someone can pass on knowledge, that's good for them as well, because then
Yeah,
they can have
right.
something. So it's just building
Right.
those relationships and collaborations. But I've had great mentors. I could list a lot of them, but I really appreciate all of the people that have helped me, that are still helping me. Those in my church family, in my family who pray for me.
Mm.
Mentorship just come from a career. It could definitely come from a family member, a
Right.
coworker,
Right.
someone in the church, someone in your community. So I'm just very blessed to have those who have, saw something in me to take their time, being very selfless, and to mentor me. So yes,
Absolutely. And you're right. I think when you find people that notice that you're willing to put in the work, they're willing to actually transfer that knowledge to you. So, but you have to like want to put in the work, right?
exactly.
And I also agree with you as far as different mentors, because there are some people that their expertise may be in a different area than another particular mentor, right? So you may have, like for me, I know I have like my brother and some church members that kind of help me with on the spiritual journey, but as far as professionalism and career, I have a different mentor for that. So I do feel like it's important to establish those relationships to kind of help you along the way. That's very important. That's
It
very
is.
good.
It's very important because those mentors, if you build your relationships and it's genuine, then they can give you good criticism.
Right.
I love for people to give me feedback. What do I need to work on?
Yes,
I want to
Pam.
get better.
Yes.
How
Yes.
can you help me? You know, so having
Yes.
attitude, people don't want you to say, can you mentor me? Can you help me? And then they have to call you every day and say, are you
Are
ready?
you
You know,
coming? Right. Right.
exactly. So I was when she told me that she would mentor me afterward, like I was ready. Like I got off 2 minutes ago. What time are you off? Like, are you ready to get started? You know,
Yeah.
and
You did.
other people in the department saw that, and so, but for me, it was genuine. I genuinely wanted to learn.
Mhm.
So when you do things from your heart, I
Right.
do believe people will help you.
Right. And you've helped me, so I really appreciate that. So I believe it. All right. So I'm going to pivot just a bit, so that you can shed some light on your your recent research on diabetes. So I noticed that you've been doing a lot of research with diabetes. What can you tell us that will be helpful and that we could use in our daily lives?
Okay. So I want to say that I'm not an expert. However, I have lived with diabetes. And to me, it's something very important, a message to get across, especially during this time, because there are some things that go on in our body that we have no control over.
Mm,
How unfortunate it is, some people are living with diseases and illnesses that there's just no cure for. One thing about diabetes is that it can be reversible. It takes a lot of discipline. And I'm speaking from experience because I have had gestational diabetes and have a higher percentage of possibly getting it later on in life or even having it now. So things that I did to reverse that was there's four things, and it's diet, and that's intaking more vitamin C and calcium, and that's decreasing the amount of carbs you intake. So those two things, then drinking lots of water and doing exercise. Um,
mm,
I lived in Indianapolis for about a year, and I was carrying my first son. And while I was there, I was working. I had just got promoted with Kroger to work in their bakery. So I was going to do a food science program. So it's really awesome. I was going to get to study bread and how bread is made and the formulation and all of that. But while I was there, I'm pregnant, and so I have gestational diabetes. And most women, when you go through that process of getting tested for diabetes, like it's just a uncomfortable process because you have to drink glucose and then you have to wait an hour and they test you. And if you fail the first time, you have to do it again. And then it's a 3-hour process. So after failing both of those, being in Indianapolis, I believe saved my life because I know we've all heard of Peyton Manning. He actually has a children's hospital. I know, right? he has he has a children's hospital in Indianapolis.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, and my doctor at the time was like, I want you to go take the diabetes classes because I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And the classes were absolutely amazing. Like, I went to class twice a week. There was a nutritionist there. The nutritionist went through diet plans with us. Like, it was really like an accountability session where we wrote down what we ate. We went over carbs. Like, I thought I was back in college again. But it was such an awesome experience because I was able to get my sugars down. You
Mm,
know, 4 years later, I've had two more kids, and I knew what to do just from going to
right.
the classes at his hospital. Which I wish I could tell him, like, thank you for having that. I wish more people would offer that. So when it comes back to me now in 2020 doing research, having worked in several areas of the food chain, I know the science behind the food we eat. And sometimes to get too much into detail on the science of the foods, I just tell people, let's watch what we eat. Let's
Mm,
learn. the labels on the food that we're eating, and let's reverse diabetes. If that's one thing we can check off our list, let's go ahead and
Mhm.
so that if your body comes into something else later on down the line, or if your body comes into something else, then your body can better fight it because diabetes is now off the list. You can,
Oh,
and
that's
I
good.
don't want any people to get sick, and I don't want to make it seem like a long list of things. But if there's something I can control, then I would like to control it and help
Right,
others control it.
right, right.
So that's my whole push now with diabetes. It's an unprecedented time with this virus going on. And I want people to not worry about when a science is going to come up with a cure for coronavirus.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, let's focus on getting healthier
What we
eating
can, yeah.
and drinking more water and
Mhm.
exercising so that when you hear the news and they say that people with diabetes and hypertension are dying at a higher rate of coronavirus, well, let's take diabetes out of the picture.
Mhm.
Um, we have to manage what we can. We can't manage coronavirus right now. We don't have the answers to that, but we do have the answers for diabetes. And together, I feel like we all can help each other with that.
Mm,
So that's
absolutely.
my push right now for diabetes.
Okay, so you stated that the four main things that or four main factors that we could do to kind of help control that is drink water, drink more water, exercise, consume more vitamin C,
Vitamin D.
vitamin D, consume more vitamin D. Okay.
Yes, vitamin D. And I'll give you some examples of that too. Um,
Okay.
and the other was so the vitamins consume more vitamin D and more calcium. That goes together. And then the last one was decrease the amount of carbs that we eat per meal.
Okay. And I'm taking notes simply because I know that there are, I have family members that has diabetes. I actually have a couple of my family members that passed due to that disease. So I just wanted to kind of make sure I actually take this in and kind of share this knowledge with them. So just to kind of keep it low. All right. So let me go back over this again, babe. I'm sorry. So drink water, but drink more water and exercise. Um, Consume more vitamin D and calcium,
Mm-hmm.
and decrease the amount of carbs per meal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's it. That's
All
it. And carbs for us is bread. Um,
right. Mm.
I mean, I was bad at it. I remember like being in school and we would get school lunch and I would ask people like, "Are you gonna eat your bread? Can I have your bread?" Like that's how big I was on bread. Still am to this day. But when I say like I've had to change, like I don't eat white bread at all.
Mm.
And I always tell people I don't want to watch my diet. I really don't. I don't, but because I want to be healthy and I know how it feels to
Mhm.
have the sugar up or down. Like I don't want to feel that way. So I'm just gonna cut the bread out if I have to just erase it altogether. And
Mm.
that's really, really hard. But yes, so decreasing carbs. And that comes from, being able to read labels and see how many carbs.
Mm.
It's really easy. It's just a mind thing and just,
Right.
it's just a habit to create. So we're going to work on that all together as a whole entity. And it's not just a African American thing. It's not
Right.
just an overweight thing. It's a world. I mean, it's just a
It's
thing.
a whole world. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. Okay. So bread. So would you say that there any other like major things that we need to like kind of cut back, like bread and what else would you say?
Bread has the most carbs.
Okay.
Another thing culturally that has been, people get upset when people ask, don't drink alcohol if you're diabetic. I don't remember what brand of alcohol it is, but there's in one bottle of beer, there can be about 15 carbs. That's a lot. And if you're only supposed to take in 30 to 40 carbs per meal, and one beer has 15 carbs, then and one slice of bread has 15 carbs, it's like, but
That's it?
that's it. That's it. It's like, okay, I guess I can't have dinner tonight,
Is it? Can't have no chocolate, nothing.
Nothing. So it's hard and it's frustrating because we have to live with this. But I've come into contact with some really great people from our hometown actually who have found different things that are low carb, things that normal people would just say, well, I'm not about to spend all that time reading the label. But this person has taken the time to find things that have 1 and 2 carbs on.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and so it is really amazing. And speaking of the diabetes, we will be doing cooking classes. She's going to be one of the guests on there, but she'll get to talk about her experience. And I was just so blown away because, you know, she taught me something. I didn't know that there was such a thing. So we learn from each other. Um, but I think that's another one. And it's nothing to get upset about if you have diabetes and you know, then I'm telling you, beer has a lot of carbs in it. Bread has a lot of carbs in it.
Beer has a lot of carbs in it, guys.
Yeah. Yes, but I have heard that there are beers out there that has just a few carbs.
Saving grace. Okay.
Yes, somebody out there saved us. But it's up to us to do the research, to share the
Right.
knowledge, you know. And so you don't have to drink the one that has 15 carbs. We're gonna announce which one has the 1 to 2 carbs. I think it was Michelob Ultra. I'm not a beer drinker, but I want to go look at the label, you know, to myself.
Okay.
But yes, so just those are things to know. Those are the 2 biggest things. They both have yeast in them, so those are things to kind of to look out for.
Okay.
Yeah, and then but there are other things to increase, which is like the vitamin D and the calcium. Um, and one thing that has vitamin D is sunlight. You know, a lot of people take exercise for granted, but just going out and walking for 30 minutes a day, that can do a whole lot. So, but yeah, just increasing those calcium. We know orange juice.
Right.
Yes, and people think you need calcium and vitamin D for your bones, but it also helps regulate your glucose in your body. So, yeah, so not just for your bones, that's important as well, but for those of us. And then I just want to say one more thing about diabetes. People think that, like I said earlier, it's a certain race or it's a certain size of people that have it. That's not true. It's just that your body, people who have diabetes, you know, our bodies can't produce glucose like someone who doesn't have it.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's like you identify that your body has that, and then you try to work and find ways, you know, and so it's just knowing that knowledge of some things to eat. And I understand for some people they still may have to be on medication. That's fine, but identifying those triggers and then managing it is the key.
Identify triggers. Got it. Okay. That's good stuff, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, and I probably should ask you this at the end, but I want to go ahead and ask you now because I know this kind of will be beneficial to a lot of people who's unaware of the diabetes disease. Where could we find more information? Like, how can we? I know that you do different webinars and things of that sort in regards to that. So, where can we find information? Like, how can we reach out to you, or how can we kind of like research this and kind of get more information?
Yeah, so I encourage everyone during this time, if you want some tips on how to do research, I would love to help. But I know for our country as a whole, there are different organizations that are appointed to, kind of manage, oversee, bring awareness to certain things. And for diabetes, there's the American Association of Diabetes. They have tons of information online. I actually take it upon myself to speak to different doctors just to get as much education on it as I can. In the Athens, Georgia area, Dr. Lyon, is a great resource. I actually went and met with him last week, had a great conversation with him. Unfortunately, I don't think there is like a lot of research being put into that right now, which is something that I'm trying to push.
Thank you.
Yes, other than, taking the medicine and the insulin, I'm really wanting to use my voice and hopefully those behind me to encourage more research on that particular disease. Um, I have always pushed people to take an interest in science and math, simply because research is a skill that is very strategic. Um, it takes like a set of skills that most people, like patience is one of them, I'll say that. You can't just start a research today and think it's over tomorrow or you found the solution tomorrow.
Right, right.
Literally years, and so it takes patience.
Right.
So I'm hoping that this research will increase and that maybe there'll be more funding for it. But while we do wait on that, I always tell people to be proactive and just do what we can to at least reverse it, for those where it is kind of minor. Again, it's a disease that we have no control over. So I may have a small issue where I can't produce just I may be missing a little bit of glucose to be, where the average person is. But then there's maybe someone else who's having like a much bigger issue. But still,
Right.
all of those things can help. And so definitely go online. There's all sorts of nutritionists who come up with diet plans. That's something I'm also hoping increases in Georgia, since I was introduced to that in Indianapolis or Indiana state. I would love to see something like that here in Georgia. So, for beginners, I would say the American Association of Diabetes, just as an overall umbrella. Talk to local doctors. In Overton, Georgia, Dr. Jonathan Poon, Dr. Glenn Poon, I think they're great resources. And locally, those are people that I know, but because it's such a big number of people in our community that have it, I'm more than sure that lots of family doctors, if they don't specialize in it, they probably have enough knowledge to give you the medicines or the requirements that they think you may need, or refer you to someone else. So I would say start there. Another thing is, for those who are diabetics, I would encourage, please use your glucose meters and actually check your sugars. I know some people and I say sugars because this is the term we use, in the community, like, check my sugar. But honestly, if you check your sugars and, the numbers are off, right then and there that, okay, I need to do something to get it down or get it up. But if you don't check it and you go off, well, I just feel like I have a headache, so I my sugar down, then I'm just going to drink some orange juice. But what if it's not? So it's glucose meter is there. So, so use it. And that can tell you right then and there, oh, maybe I need to go to the hospital. Like, these are the sorts of things that glucose meter can identify right away. But I know that a lot of people don't use it. I was guilty of it. I did not like pricking my finger 3 times a day. I mean, it was just too much for me. So I get it. I know people are slacking off on that, but during this time, I would encourage people to check it, when you're supposed to, and let that be your guide to go from there.
Okay. Now, how often would you say that it's necessary to check your glucose level?
I would say when you first get up in the morning, right before you eat. So that's called a fasting reading. So before you eat anything, you want to check it at that time. And then you want to check it at least 2 hours after each meal. So you should eat something for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And after each one of those meals, 2 hours after, you need to check it again. So that's a total of about 4 times. But for me, I think the fasting might be the most important. Again, this is just going from my experience. If I woke up in the morning and my numbers were really high, then either I ate too much before I went to bed, I ate too late, I ate too much carbs or sugar before I went to bed. That first morning reading kind of tells me what I need to adjust moving forward. If it's too low, then okay, maybe I need to make sure I eat something a little heavier at night. Or, that number right there can set the precedent for the rest of your day. So I would suggest that people, get acquainted more with your body and check that first thing in the morning before you eat. And then you can start making adjustments from there. Maybe I need to eat more, less, earlier, later,
Right.
That number will tell you. And then another thing is to check the trend. Don't just
Gotcha.
check it today. Science
Right.
against patient. So you need to check it daily, and then you can maybe see a trend. Nobody knows our bodies better than us.
That we
So
do.
check,
Right.
yeah, yes.
And I have just one more question in regards to diabetes. How do you like get that disease? Like, how do you, is it hereditary? Like, how do you get diabetes?
So I know it's hereditary. Um, Other than that, I don't know. Like, I think some people, I've heard different stories as to how they start getting symptoms later on in life. But it's definitely hereditary. But because it is reversible, we don't. If someone in your family has it, you don't have to get it because you have the opportunity to do the things
To do the
to
things that you
prevent
need to do
it.
to prevent it. Okay.
But, some people are still not that fortunate and still may, suffer from it. However, you have a higher chance of preventing it by doing those things early. If like for me, I have a high percentage of diabetes in my family, and all of my family members are doing well because they've managed it. They've
Mm-hmm.
changed their diet, stuff like that. So I'm trying to, because I was told that I have a 30% chance of getting diabetes later in life because of all the family members that have it. I just try to not worry about it for one. That's one thing. I
Right.
don't worry about it. But I just made a conscious decision to change those four things that I said earlier. I was not drinking water every day, and I was not exercising every day. I wasn't increasing vitamin D or calcium. It's like every day you have to do those things, and you have to do all of them every day. So um, it's hereditary. And I would just encourage people that if you know it's hereditary in your family to, check on it early, and I think you get checked once a year. For instance, with me, because I had it during my pregnancies, I recently went back and had a doctor's visit. All my numbers were still good, but because I had it during pregnancy, I will continue to check it every year to just be ahead of it. And then it's just also about holding myself accountable, because the minute they tell me, or if they tell me that it's come back, then I'm going to increase the things or make sure I pick back up on the things I
What you
fell
need
off.
to. Right.
Mhm.
Right. Wow, that's some good insight and information there. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, Now, I also know that you were doing some research with recent studies about the USG systems and some of changing their requirements and that sort of thing. With COVID-19 shifting the education data system as well as the requirements, what are some tips that you could give our high school students and parents that can assist them with making, a legitimate decision in regards to attending college?
That's a good question. The University System of Georgia right now is, well, first I'll say this is a very sad and unfortunate time that we've had to change the way we do everything. But there's always light in some darkness. For those high school seniors and parents, now you all probably have more of a benefit of kids going to school than I ever did. Maybe you too, Ebony.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yes, they have pretty much for the University System of Georgia now. So I would recommend to go under that umbrella and see what all schools are under there. There are tons of them. Um, but for those that's under that umbrella, kids are able to apply to school without the requirements of having an SAT or an ACT score. That has
Wow,
that
that's
has
major.
for years. It really is. It has hindered people for years. They are erasing that. And then some schools have even went as far as erasing the application fee. And my alumni,
Yes.
Albany State University. So it's a really good time to be a senior, even though you all are missing your graduation and prom and things like
I
that.
know, and I'm so sorry, guys.
It's
It's
heartbreaking. But
heartbreaking. It is.
I promise
It
you, if you
is.
look down the line, like this is a major opportunity for you guys. I highly recommend that you take advantage of it. Um, Now, as far as majors, I'm really big on pushing people for math and science. However, I will say that in this new year, in 2020, the future of food is really big. People are being, or companies, I would say, are being a bit more creative as far as the innovation with their food products. A lot of people are going green now, so you find a lot of plant-based foods. So that's really big. That's a huge game changer. So that means they're going to need more scientists to study crops, to study how crops, reproduce. So there's a huge opportunity in agriculture right now. And a lot of people look over that career because I just think, I don't know, probably just because a lot of people did not grow up around farming and things like that.
Right.
And it was exciting to me. And so I think that those students who choose to go in that field will be very pleased because of the way agriculture is going. Now, as far as trade and things like that go, in the food industry, we do trade to other countries. Now, I don't know what's to come with, the way things are going. But when it comes to, the possibility of everything being traded just here in the United States, that will be a big thing for someone who gets into the agricultural business. So it's just a lot to think
Especially
about.
considering.
Yes, it is. It is. And so, like I said, I graduated from Albany State University, but another school that is really big in agriculture is the University of Georgia, Fort Valley State University.
Mm-hmm.
Those schools are really big in agriculture. And then as far as agriculture for the state of Georgia, is really big in South Georgia. So when people get to, there are lots of schools in South Georgia that like my brother went to ABAC, Abraham Baldwin. I think
Mm-hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm.
big in agriculture. So there's lots of colleges in Georgia. People
South
just have
Georgia,
to
yeah.
take time to research.
To
Yes,
research, yeah.
and
Absolutely.
what works and fits best for them. But my advice to seniors is to stay focused, to go out. You have nothing but time. Go out and research those schools,
Mm-hmm.
research the extracurricular activities that they have. Don't just go to where it's popular. Like, see what you can benefit from that school. That's
Right.
important. And so just look into something that that you can see 10 years from now, being something that you can be very successful in.
Right. And speaking on that, with the math and science, there are also plenty of jobs in technology. I know technology is all like our new world now. So, apart from our agriculture, there's also jobs or careers that you could get in math and science with technology, gaming, programming. I'm a programmer, so a lot of research goes into that as well. So you have different arenas in that area as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there as another option. Um, Very
That's
good. Thank you
very
for that. The
true.
last question, Pam. You have given us so much information. It just seems like you're so knowledgeable. As I'm sure you are, you're a scientist, right? How do you how does God play a part in that? Like, how has he strengthened your relationship, or how has can you share some of the favor that he's shown you as you've advanced in the scientific world, or becoming a scientist? Like, how has the favor of God has, like, we can see it in you. We already see it in you, but like, can you just shed some light on how he actually like came, actually help you in advance in your career?
Okay.
And I should
So
have asked that earlier. I'm sorry. Oh, hello, Pam. Pam.
that he'll take care of you, he'll provide for you. Like I literally saw that. So I didn't grow up, my parents weren't rich. The people in my community weren't rich, the people in our church weren't rich, but they were rich in service and love and community.
Yes.
And so when I left to go out on my journey to go to college, and something that, those people didn't get a chance to do, I
Mm-hmm.
felt I was obligated to pay them back for the lessons that they have instilled in me.
Right.
So when I go out, I'm going to college, and next thing you know, I'm going all over the world, all over the country. And I knew, I never doubted that he was never not with me. Like I always knew that he was with me. And when you saw this little bitty person from Elberton, Georgia, traveling all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
like I knew he was with me. And I
Mm-hmm.
knew that he had a purpose for me, and never knew
Yes.
what it was.
Yes.
I just
Yes.
trusted the process. And the
Yes.
process was never easy. It's not easy now, but
Mm-hmm.
I trust him. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you trust him, then you can allow him to order your steps. Um,
Yes.
I can take steps and not know if I'm gonna sink or fall, but because I
Right.
know he's guiding
He
me, I
got
know.
you. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I could go on all day about his
I'm
goodness, but
telling you, honey.
he's just as good, and people don't know. Like people think, well, how did she get there? Somebody must have just nobody gave me nothing. He showed me how to walk, and he showed me how to walk in faith, and I did.
Yes.
And I'm still
Yes.
encouraging everybody else to do it.
Yes.
Faith.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Because sometimes you just wonder, like, how did I even get here? And you just know that it was only by the grace of God, and it's just, he can take you places that man can't. They can't do nothing for you, So I mean, that's crazy. That's good. It's good. That's
It
good.
is, it is, and it's like in my career, I've been like in some really high positions, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Lord, I'm from Elberton, Georgia. I
I
want
know.
to see you. Like, oh, I'm forever grateful. And what I do is, I've been there. I've been like, I feel like I've done everything in the work industry. Now it's time for me to help someone else. You know,
Right. Right.
I want to
That's
continue
good.
with him. So I want to help someone else. And they may not have the same journey as me, but I'll be there as a resource. And so
God.
that's
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know
yeah.
you've been a resource to me. Because I'm like, I mean, watching you, I'm like, how do you like do this? Like, how do you know where to start? Like, how do you know how you identify your purpose or whatever? So, and the tips you've given me has been very great, and I appreciate it. And I thank you so much for everything, for just kind of sharing your story, kind of shedding some light, and kind of being a resource for me. So I really appreciate it. And thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for being a part of my channel and kind of, providing us some information. We really appreciate it. I hope this was a beneficial video for you guys. If so, please like, share, subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure you stay tuned. I have some very special guests coming up soon. So make sure you stay locked into that. And as always, be blessed and have a great day. Thanks again, Pam. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Love you much.
Love you too, babe.